Hello, and welcome to an intro to Anthro with two humans. I'm human number one, John McCray.
And I'm human number two, John Lehr.
And this is the podcast where we reassess what it means to be human. And the title of today's episode is Otzi, Brad, Juanita, and Pete, Hollywood A-listers and the celebrity mummies of archaeology.
Yeah.
So we're going to be talking about mummies.
Yes. Yeah.
But before we do, there's a point of business. We were a few days late this week.
Yes. And it's all my fault. It is. And I take 100% responsibility. I've been on tour doing comedy, doing this crazy two-person improv. I hate to call it an improv show because people, that connotes some crazy stuff for people, mostly bad. But anyway, I've been doing this show, and you and I had organized it where I would do it from New York, the last city of my tour. And we did, and we pulled it off. I had the microphone. I even found a recording studio at the theater complex that I was at. It was perfect. It was all folding into place. Yeah. And then we did our show, and it all of a sudden crashed, and we lost everything.
Right. we had like a very small window because you also teach. You teach when you're there.
Yeah, that's a big part. We do a show, and then we also do like a master class, right? To show people how we do what we do. So it's fun as hell. I've really enjoyed it, but yes, it leaves very little me time.
So we had scheduled it in. There was a tight envelope of like 2 hours.
Yep.
And you had to do it from the theater. That place you were recording from was in the theater.
I know.
And so then we started doing it just so everyone knows we weren't taking a day off or anything.
Right.
And it crashed.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. And it was and I've been going back and forth with Zencastr, who is the company we use to record our who I like a lot. And by the way, their customer service has been really good.
Really?
That's good. Incredibly responsive, and but we can't find it. They've tried, but there's no. It's gone. And I think it happened on my side because the Wi-Fi just was not good.
Right. Yeah, you were back. City. It was like in a break room or something because there was a sink and there was a fridge.
Yeah, and they had turned it into a little podcast studio. This theater, and they had Wi-Fi and everything. But I think we were just trying to do it when New York, everybody was trying to watch their porn or their Netflix or whatever.
Sunday afternoon, it was like
New York City. It was Mother's Day.
Yeah.
And everybody was probably just exhausted from dealing with their Mother's Day stuff.
Yeah.
And just wanted to get on to the old IG, the Instagram, and or whatever they were doing. Anyway, they ate up all the bandwidth and we got screwed. So my apologies to our listening audience. And my apologies to you, Professor McCray, because you do so much to prepare for this. And I am in charge of the tech side, and I dropped the ball.
Well, I think we tried it 2 or 3 times because we started up again to do it again. And then it crashed again. It crashed again. And then by the third time, I couldn't remember what we had discussed and what we hadn't discussed.
Yeah, it was horrible. The whole thing. It was a fail. It was a complete and utter failure. And really, this whole week has been very difficult. It's been very exciting, but it's been a lot of it just seems like I'm grinding a little bit, it's just been that kind of a week. So anyway, it's good to be with you in the friendly confines of Intro to Anthro. And, look, we've had a rehearsal. We had a dress rehearsal. Yeah. Now we're opening the curtain, opening night. Here we go.
All right, here we go. And lights up. All right, so John, so back to this week's episode. The title is Otzi, Brad, Juanita, and Pete. And of course, we're talking about Otzi and Juanita are both famous ice mummies.
Yes.
Okay, there's different types of mummies.
Yes, of course.
Pete is a nickname for a famous bog mummy.
Yeah,
in England, who was mummified in a bog.
And can you remind the audience what is, and more importantly, me, what is a bog? I mean, what is a bog?
A bog is it's a wetland, I guess is what you would call it. It's an old term for a wetland, but it's like there's earth, obviously, there's some solid earth, but it's also very wet.
Okay.
So, we'll get into it when we talk about it.
It's a bit of a swamp. Yeah, but maybe and it's not salt water. It's fresh water.
I think it's fresh water.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's like a swamp up in Northern Europe, maybe in colder climes or something.
I see. So when we're in a colder biome, it's a bog. When we're in warmer biomes, it's a swamp.
Yeah,
perhaps.
Don't quote me on that.
We won't hold it. We won't hold it.
Any biologists or anything, don't write in, or do write in and tell us what we're missing. And then we get to Brad, John, and Brad is Brad Pitt, the movie star.
Yes, he is. Who I have met. I have met Mr. Pitt.
Yeah,
and a very nice man.
Yeah,
like most movie stars, a little shorter than you kind of would expect.
Really?
But that's with most people. I don't know. He's of average height. It's just when you see him on the big screen, you think they're very tall, and then they're not. That goes with everybody, though.
My height, or your height?
Somewhere in between, perhaps. Somewhere in between. Me, I'm going to go with he's probably 5'10".
Oh, okay.
Maybe 5'9".
Yeah, he's tall.
He's tall. Well, to the McCrays, yes. You guys were built low to the ground.
Welsh, a lot of Welsh in there.
You were Welsh miners.
Yeah,
smaller than you're like you're hobbits, really, but like badass. I don't mean the hobbits like making fun of hobbits. I mean the hobbits that are, because hobbits in the book were badass fighters and
Anyway. Wasn't Golem was a hobbit, or
yes,
related
he was.
To yeah.
And anyway, so
what was the situation that you met him in, though?
Well, he was friends with a sculptor friend of mine. Yeah, and the sculptor friend was having a little gathering. Yeah, and I walk in, and over there, dressed in a summer suit, is none other than Bradley Pitt.
A summer suit. I love it. I love summer suits.
He was in a summer suit. He looked fabulous. I mean, it was just like exactly like, and we got into conversation. Realized we're both part of this from the same part of the country,
right?
And I had a nice chat with him. It was very nice.
I looked it up because I didn't know one of the takes that we did.
Yes,
but I looked it up since. Apparently, he was born in Oklahoma, but then he grew up in Springfield, Missouri. Yeah,
Springfield, the capital.
Is it? I don't know. Jefferson City.
Oh, is it? I don't know.
Springfield's the capital of Illinois, I think. But
right.
So you're right.
Okay.
You're right.
And I'm in Illinois right now doing this podcast, so that's where it all comes back. My tour has been elongated.
Really?
Because my aunt passed away, my Aunt Catherine, who I'd like to dedicate this episode to. Wonderful woman. She was in her 90s. She had a great life, died in her sleep. So, but I'm going to the funeral. So I'm staying an extra day in Chicago and then flying to Kansas City.
And where is the funeral in Kansas City, or is it down in El Dorado?
It's in Kansas City. Kansas City. Yeah. And I'm going to go to check out the new barbecue that everybody's talking about in Kansas City, Q39.
I've heard of that.
I know. I'm going to give a full report.
Okay, please.
Both Professor McCray and I are both from Kansas City, and we are barbecue fanatics.
Yeah.
As you are when you grow up in Kansas City. You like the Chiefs and you like barbecue.
Yeah, those are the two things. And people who live or have stayed in Kansas City or are in Kansas City right now, you're probably like, Q39, that's been around forever. Yeah. And it's like, yes, but we haven't been there.
That's right. It's new to us. It's new to us. And I hope you don't mind, but I'm going to use the petty cash from the show to eat some barbecue, but I'll do a review. Review.
And please post it.
The show's going to pay for it. My Uber there and back and my barbecue.
Holy crap. What else are we paying for?
I don't know.
That petty cash, there's not much in that.
I might get a nice cigar after the barbecue.
Well, I feel as though I've met your aunt. I know I've met some of your
Oh, yeah, you've
aunts.
met Catherine for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, you met her.
At
She
some
was
event.
low-key funny. All the Lehrs are funny. The
Yeah.
McCrays too. Yeah, just a wonderful woman. She raised 4 kids essentially on her own.
Is she
And
related to Gar? Is she related?
no, that's my
Okay.
Aunt Sandra. I mean, they
Okay.
are related, but
Yeah.
yeah. I have a big family, but now my dad was with 7 brothers and sisters, and now
Ooh.
it's down to 1. My
Oh,
uncle David is the only one left, and he'll be there, and that's really the main reason I'm
yeah.
going. I want to see him.
And I know I've met him before.
Oh
On a
yeah,
few shows.
he's the
Yeah.
funniest of all of them. Well,
Yeah.
Don was the funniest, but I think he might have died before you came on the scene. Even
Okay.
yeah, but
Okay.
he was funny, that guy, and also could open beer bottles with his mouth. Yeah, he'd do the teeth thing with the beer
Yeah,
cap.
yeah.
These are not
Oh,
twist offs, everybody. These are
Yeah.
not twist offs.
Could he open a can of beans as well?
Probably.
Just bite right into that thing.
He was essentially a Swiss Army knife.
So just to sum up, that you met Brad Pitt. You talked about where you're both from. I mean, Springfield's only about 4 hours from Kansas City. I have family in Springfield, actually.
Yeah.
And so you talked about that. Anything else? Did you just chat?
Yeah, yes, we just chatted. He was really handsome.
Yeah.
Those are the 2 things. And nice guy. Yeah.
Right.
Normal Midwestern nice guy.
That's great.
He extended himself in the conversation. I didn't have to lead. It was a back and forth. It was nice. And by the way, I met Angelina Jolie too. So I've met them both.
Really? At the same event?
No, totally
Really?
separate. They were divorced for both meetings. And Angelina, wait,
Angelina, I think it is.
Angelina. I met her at her house. That's right, everybody. And her dad, John Voight, was there as well. She lives in this gated community not far from my house.
Yeah.
And we did Halloween for Halloween. We went to our friends who lived in that gated community, and we trick or treated with our kids. And I turned around, and there was Angelina Jolie wearing like bunny ears.
Oh,
and
that's hilarious!
I shook her hand, and it just straight out of the movies. I went right to like I could not talk. It was so humiliating, but I really didn't. I couldn't form a sentence.
Yeah.
And she smiled at me nicely. And then John Voight was up in her treehouse with her kids.
Really?
I saw him up there.
Who was passing out candy? Was she passing out candy?
No, I think probably one of her minions. Literally, I mean, candy was everywhere. My kids were like going nuts.
I was, when you at her house, I was expecting you were at like a dinner party or something.
I wish. No, I was just some guy with a pillowcase asking for milk duds.
So let's continue on, John. So what's the connection between Brad Pitt and Mummies?
Yes.
And so anyway, a couple weeks ago, our listener Tom C. in Los Angeles.
Tom C.
And the reason I say Tom C. is that we have a lot of Toms that listen to this show.
Yes. And we do. You're right. Our Tom demo is through the roof.
I know. If you know somebody named Tom, please give them our website or pass on this information, because Toms love it. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, we're big in Toms. Okay, good.
So we have a Tom K, a Tom D, and a Tom C just off the top of my head. And I'm sure if I went through all the...
Well, then we've got my cousin Tommy who listens to it.
Right.
So, yeah, we've got a lot of Toms.
Okay,
good.
But Tom C wrote in with the idea for this episode. And Tom said, quote, he wanted to see an episode on Otzi the Iceman, specifically. And Tom said, not just the man, but how he was found, legal issues that followed, people's obsession, and then he has in parentheses, like mine, meaning like Tom's.
Right.
The curse, his murder, the tattoos, and then he has in parentheses, Brad Pitt got him tattooed on his body.
Damn.
Close parentheses. And then he said the movie Iceman from 2017, and I could go on and on. And so, first thing, Tom, thank you for listening.
Yeah.
Of course.
Thank you.
Yeah. And sorry we're late this week, Tom.
Yeah. It's my fault. I've already accepted responsibility.
There's a gift basket on its way, Tom.
So. Actually, petty cash is going to be low after Q39, so I don't know.
A very small gift basket with just like a loaf of Wonder Bread in it. It's a bologna.
It should be an ice cube for a frozen. Ice cube.
But secondly, for those of you who don't know, Otzi the Iceman is an archaeological superstar.
Yes.
Like everybody knows Otzi the Iceman. And I would say if archaeology had A-listers, it would be Lucy the Australopithecus.
Yeah, absolutely. Lucy's number one for sure.
Yeah. King Tut. Remember when King Tut did that world tour? Like everybody went mad over King Tut.
Now, when I was a young man, I never thought I'd see. Yeah. By the way, that song. I mean, he has a song. That means he's an A-lister. By Steve Martin. It doesn't hold up so well.
Have you listened to it?
Yes.
I mean, was it like offensive, or is it just like it's not?
Yeah, it's just it had its day.
Yeah,
and it was very funny. Yeah. And but now, no, not so much.
It was a simpler time.
It's
the best of times, the worst of times.
Yeah, pre-internet.
Yeah,
pre-smartphones.
We love that stuff. We love listening to it. And then we have Otzi. Those three, I say, would be like the three top archaeological remains.
Yes.
And they're like I would say, Cher, Paul McCartney, and Jack Nicholson. Like if you had to draw lines between them.
Those are big. I know you. I know why you put Cher in there, because your wife is a Cher scholar.
Right. I always, any chance I get, I try to mention Cher, which she just got back from seeing Cher in Hollywood this weekend, talking at I think it was the Producers Guild.
Wow. Did she get a chance to marry? Has Mary ever met Cher?
I think she had a book signing, but Mary uses Cher as like a lens to talk about pop culture.
Right.
So she even says she doesn't even really want to meet her to hang out or anything. Right. It's more just like who Cher is and how Cher has affected pop culture.
Yeah, it's amazing. Mary is a very interesting, brilliant poet, and I highly recommend.
So that's what,
McCray, Mary Ladd, Ladd, if you'd like to search her out.
Well, she actually, her poetry's under Mary McCray.
It is?
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Okay. That's embarrassing because I have a couple of her books.
Yeah. And believe it or not, there's a porn star named Marie McCray.
Oh.
Spelled the same way. And every once in a while, Mary will get... she'll get a bunch of followers of her poetry site, and it's obviously these guys aren't they got the wrong they got the wrong one. I don't know.
Maybe if she gets 100, maybe one will stick around. Maybe there's a you never know.
Yeah,
cast a wide net.
But it's very funny. It comes through in waves. Like somehow they just don't even look. Whatever Marie McCray, whatever comes up first, they're followers.
Well, if you're into porn, you're moving quick.
You're not reading.
You're not reading, and you're moving quick. Yeah. You're not deliberate.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
I wonder how long it takes before they realize it's a poetry site.
Pretty quick. Pretty quick.
Clicking around on the links. Like trying to find.
I'm going to give it 2 clicks before they realize.
And then, John, as far as celebrity mummies go, I would say that Juanita the Ice Maiden, good name.
Mm-hmm.
Pete Marsh, the Lindo Man. They gave him because he was found in a peat bog, Peat bog.
Oh,
the English
and the marshland. A bog is in marshland. Peat Marsh. God.
So they
would kill me. They really do.
So Pete Marsh is the Lindo Man.
Right.
And then the Toland Man is he's a Danish bog mummy. And they're not so popularly known, but for those who know mummies, these guys are definitely well known.
Yeah,
You know what
if
I mean?
you're into mummies at all, these are going to pop to the top.
Yeah.
I mean, you Google 5 most famous mummies,
Right.
and these are going to come up.
Tolan Man, Juanita, the Ice Maiden. They're like, I would say, to draw a comparison, they're like Paloma Faith, Joe Bonamassa, and Ben Folds.
Who are those guys?
I know, but
I don't know any of those.
If you know music, you would know who they are, and you'd be like, "Oh my God, those guys are huge. Those guys are huge."
I'm embarrassed.
And I use them as an example for that reason, because I mean, people would recognize them. They know who they are. They go to their shows.
Right.
And it's like Mike from Breaking Bad, the guy who played Mike, the enforcer.
Is he? Oh yes, Mike. Oh my God.
But people see him around Albuquerque all the time, and people will be like, "You won't believe who I saw. I was at a restaurant last night, and Mike from Breaking Bad," but nobody knows his name. Wow. It's always Mike from Breaking Bad.
I'm surprised that he lives in Albuquerque.
I think it's when they're filming or something.
Oh, I see.
He's out here.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Oh man, what a face.
Yeah, great character, great everything. Right?
So great.
Do you ever run into that, being recognized?
Yeah, I mean, since my hair's gone gray, not as much, but it still happens. It's always great when I truly get recognized, because that means they're a fan of Quick Draw or something, and that's always fun, because I'm a fan of those shows too. So we both just end up talking about how stuff we liked about it. But more often, the thing I would get the most of is, "Hey, haven't we met before?"
Really?
And that would happen quite a bit. And I would know, no, we haven't. Like, wow, I feel like I've met you before. And I'm thinking, no, you haven't. I was just the pizza guy on some show you saw. Yeah. So,
what is it? 10 items or less, or Quick Draw that usually that people know?
Both of them have kind of cult followings, but really? I guess probably Quick Draw, just because it's on Hulu, and it's still one of the, from my understanding, it's still a very widely watched
that's great.
Show on Quick Draw. And but I was on Friends. I don't know. I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out. There's a few. I was on a show called Jesse. That was between Friends and Frasier back in 98, I think, somewhere around there. 96 maybe. Anyway, it lasted 2 seasons, but I played Christina Applegate's brother. And I had a brief, now that's millions of people. This was must-see TV, So even though the show wasn't loved, it didn't do incredibly, the ratings were great, because it was right between Friends and Frasier. And I was in the mall buying something, shopping, and I heard a commotion, and it was like a bunch of 13-year-old girls, 12-year-old girls following me around the mall.
Really?
And they recognized me from the show. And that was weird. It was annoying and embarrassing. It's kind of how I felt.
And your hair was really long at that point too.
Yeah, I mean, you
were recognizable.
Very recognizable. Yeah. Now I wear glasses. My hair's gray. My days of being recognized for now. Yeah, we never know.
Hey, aren't you human number?
Anthro might blow through the roof.
Aren't you human number 2?
Yeah, exactly.
Haven't I talked to you on the phone before? Maybe if they don't listen, they just recognize your voice.
Right.
But anyway, so Tom said, though, if you remember, he said Brad Pitt has a tattoo of Otzi the Iceman. And to me, that takes it to an entirely, my worlds are like collapsing in on themselves.
Yeah, that is incredible. I mean, I'm kind of impressed with Brad Pitt, I mean, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure he has his reasons. Right. But maybe it's sort of like, I'm just going to read into it. Maybe it's like, hey, this is all fleeting. You really want to be famous, for thousands of years, you got to be frozen,
Yeah, I know. And it was interesting to me that he chose Otzi instead of like an Egyptian mummy or an Egyptian sarcophagus or something.
Right.
Like it's an obscure, ice mummy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
maybe he took an anthropology class, because like I took an anthropology class and I cannot stop thinking about Lucy, because my class was all centered around Lucy. Yeah. So maybe he took an anthro class.
I don't know. It's very. I'm astounded and impressed, and it's pretty amazing. And we'll try to get to why we think. We'll go in. We'll talk about Otzi, and then we'll try to think about why Brad Pitt has Otzi tattooed on his arm. Yeah. And really, when I thought about Tom mentioning that, the first thing I thought was he's just putting that in there, so we'll do a show on Otzi. Yeah. Because if you mention Brad Pitt and Otzi in the same sentence to me, it's like,
yeah, of course, you're off and running.
Yeah. But it doesn't take too long if you go online and you look at, just Google Brad Pitt's tattoos or Brad Pitt's Otzi tattoo, and it comes up. And the thing is, Otzi himself, the Iceman from 5,300 years ago, had 61 tattoos.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wait, first of all, where is the Otzi tattoo on Brad? Are we talking
left forearm?
Left forearm. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you looking it up now? Or are you...
No. I was just curious. Left forearm. Okay. Yeah. So he didn't put it on his calf. That's interesting.
Right. And it's not like on his back, or it's not a tramp stamp
on his
or
back. No, it's not a tramp stamp. Oh, I've seen some bad tattoos recently.
Really?
Oh man, I saw a woman with 2 .45 caliber guns tattooed on her back, like she was in a holster on her back.
Yeah.
Terrible.
At the pool, that always goes over well.
Yeah.
And I thought when Tom mentioned that, knowing that Otzi's tattoos were like lines, and they were usually along his joints, like on his spine, his ankles, his wrists, and they think he was using tattoos as a form of acupuncture.
Wow.
So that's
what do you mean? Like that would be to tell them where to stick the pins in? Do it right here on this line.
Or maybe it's something magical. I mean, it could have been like that. It could have just been very like, hey, I traced it on there. But I think it was like magical. Like it was some sort of magical line or cross on there too.
But we don't know. This is the anthropologist conundrum. Right. It could be that he just thought they were cool.
Yeah, it could be. It could have just been a hipster. It was like, oh yeah, that was like,
I like that. Give me that stick and poke.
But Brad Pitt, when you look at his tattoo of Otzi, it's not one of Otzi's tattoos. It's actually a silhouette of Otzi, and almost like a chalk crime drawing. You know what I mean? And
so there's skin. It's just a line. It's just draw a line, and it's in the shape of Otzi.
Right. And it's on his left forearm. And if you're not familiar with Otzi, when he apparently died on his left side. And then over time, he was rolled onto his side. So his left arm is way across, almost like perpendicular to the rest of his body, going out to the, like that he was laying on it. And it kind of looks like you had caught him in the end of a golf swing or something. You know what I mean? It's like way out there.
Right.
Yeah. And so that's what Brad Pitt has, the silhouette of Otzi on his forearm. And then underneath it, he has the word Invictus, which is Latin for unconquered. And so, the idea is, I don't know why. I mean, it's on his forearm. It's something
you think the word Invictus is related to the Otzi tattoo, is what you're surmising.
Some people, but its context is everything.
That's
what
true.
I mean?
That's true.
It's possible that the Invictus was already there.
It's possible that he had some girl's name tattooed there and turned it into Invictus.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it could be, because I'm like, what is Invictus about a guy who died 5,300 years ago and was encased in ice for 5,300 years?
Yeah. He sure as hell surrendered.
Yeah.
He was conquered by nature.
Yeah. And apparently Brad Pitt also, which I like, he has in French on his left forearm. He has a lot of tattoos, by the way. On his left forearm, he has absurdities of life in French, or absurdities of existence.
And what is that in French? What is that?
L'absurdité de l'existence, I think. I don't
Oh
know.
my God, I love it when you speak the French. God,
yeah, you can
damn.
get a tattoo. I'll come out and
Yeah. Oh, that's a good idea. I should get something on my. I'm going face. Next tattoo going right on the face.
Our logo. I was thinking we should get our logo from the show
tattooed on my face.
On your face. Yeah, I was going to say back or chest, but yeah, let's do your face.
No. Everybody's doing it on their face now. All about the face.
Intro to Anthro on your. we have a code as well. You can put up there like a QR code that.
Oh, that's good. Hey, just scan my forehead.
But as I was, when Tom wrote that in, and I looked it up, I was thinking, Otzi's made it. As far as mummies go, when you get like one of the top actors in the world, tattooing you on their forearm.
He didn't tattoo our names. He didn't tattoo our drawings.
Yeah. Or how about, Geico Caveman? Did anybody ever come up and be like, hey, I got the Geico Caveman?
No. Oh, yeah. Yes, there were people I have seen that. People have tattooed the Geico Caveman.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing.
That's too much.
Yeah. But anyway, John, this has led me to 3 specific research questions for this episode. Okay.
Good. Here we go.
1, why do certain prehistoric remains capture our attention and become celebrity mummies? Because there's a lot of mummies out there.
Right.
And a lot of remain. A lot of people have lived, a lot of people have died. Why is it that we fixate on a few specific mummies?
Okay, good. Right. Love that.
Secondly, how is being a celebrity mummy like being a celebrity movie star?
Oh, good. I like that.
Okay.
This is helpful.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe it is like Hollywood that, maybe you have to have the it factor, some really good publicity, a cool nickname, like
right place, right time.
Right. It's all chance. You get found. Get your photos out there. Some mysterious backstory, like where did you come from? Everybody doesn't.
Fantastic. Yes.
Be a bad boy. Maybe some scandal out there, like a murder.
Tut. Tut was doing some crazy ass.
Yeah. And then also be seen with celebrities, A-list celebrities. Right. And that's what Otzi has done. That's what Otzi has done.
He's on Pitt's arm.
Yeah. And Otzi, there was actually a biopic made about Otzi in 2017 called Iceman.
Wow.
And it was a German, Italian, Austrian film shot in the Alps, all about Otzi's last few days.
Really? That's cool. Is it a good movie?
It's very, especially if you're into prehistoric cinema, which I am.
You've watched it.
I've watched it, but to get ready for this, I'd never heard about it.
The research you do, I hope our listeners at home know. Professor McCray reads books. This is not a half-assed approach.
Right.
So when his partner screws up a record, it's a big deal.
I had to move on to the research for the next episode. That's how I like it. But I knew when Tom mentioned...
You want to give a deep tease on the next episode?
ESP?
Oh, ESP.
So tune in. We're late this time, but tune in for the next one because we're doing
what
ESP.
A bounce back. Love it. Yeah. Sorry. Anyway, please continue.
But anyway, when Tom mentioned it, it's like, I got to watch it because, if it comes up or somebody asks me about it, I got to know what the show was. So I watch it, and it's a beautiful film. Jürgen Vogel, who is a German actor, plays Otzi, and they've come up with like a prehistoric language. Wow. And it's almost like a Western. People have compared it to a Western revenge story. That's all I'm going to say. But leads up to when Otzi was finally killed alone up in the mountains.
We know we know the end of the movie. We know how it ends.
And they actually start out with, they even say like there's some titles that come up, like this is a story of Otzi who was found in the Alps in 1991. Yeah.
Neat.
Okay. And then 3, John, our third research question is, why does Brad Pitt have Otzi tattooed on his forearm?
Okay.
So those are the things we're going to be looking at as we do this.
Okay.
And Tom, I think you've come to the right people.
Yes.
Obviously, I'm an anthropologist.
Mm-hmm. I'm the Geico caveman.
Professor Lehr is an actor in Hollywood who also has tattoos. You also have tattoos.
I have 2 tattoos.
Yeah.
I have one that says Ed, capital E, capital D. It's on my belt line. And it was a theater company.
You got to explain.
A drunken evening. This is pre-cool tattoos. Like I went to a place where sailors got tattooed. And we were just really drunk. And anyway, so I've got that.
Why the belt line? Why the belt line?
I don't know. I don't know any part of it. None of it makes sense. Not one part of it.
You could have got it on your knuckles or something like Ozzy.
Thank God I wasn't that drunk. Although, but it's pretty small. You know, it's about the letters are about what, like 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch tall.
How is it when you in a new relationship and you take it up a level and things get intimate?
And I've been married for 20 odd years, and she knows about it. But prior, not great. Nobody really nobody's fallen in love with it. Nobody's like, oh, I love it. No, And then I was arrested and spent the night in county jail. And you have to they list your tattoos on your rap sheet. And I said it was Ed, and all the other gangbangers in the drunk tank were looking at me like, you idiot.
And you're like really quiet, like Ed.
Yeah, I was Ed.
What?
Ed, like E.D.
Edward?
Yes,
Edward, like Edward.
Oh my God. I gotta see this. Where is it on my belt line? Oh my God, what is? And then I have another tattoo on my left tricep area, inner bicep area, that I did with my daughter. When she turned 16, we both got matching tattoos, and it's a little figure she drew.
Nice.
That's inspired by the Talking Heads Little Creatures album. Little Creatures.
Both same location? Both got
same location. Hers is a little lower. I had to go a little higher, be a little more conservative.
Right.
I can't just be flashing a tattoo out there.
For all the work, the makeup, they'd have to put makeup on it.
Yes, although now I realize if you're Brad Pitt, it doesn't matter. They'll work on him all day.
Yeah, he's got a lot all over his body. I also found when I was researching this, there's a lot of websites about good tattoos and bad tattoos, and a lot about celebrity tattoos. And I found out the musician Ryan Cabrera has a tattoo of the actor Ryan Gosling on his leg. and Cabrera said that he and his friends play a game called Tattoo Roulette.
Oh.
And that is where whoever loses, like, I don't know how they choose it, but if you lose, then someone else picks a tattoo for you. And you can't look at it until they're done with it.
Oh my, that is a terrible, terrible idea. I think the real roulette, Russian roulette, is actually better. That's a better idea.
Yeah. Oh, it just like you have to sit in there, and how much you have to be drinking for that?
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Oh,
just like
more than drinking, you've got to be out of your gourd.
So somebody picked out Ryan Gosling for him.
That's pretty good. I would have done you could have done a lot worse.
I know.
Could have done a swastika. I mean, you know what I mean? Anything could happen.
Oh God, that would be awful. That would be
awful. My God.
Why did you get your tattoos? Was it just
for the first one, I was in a theater company, and I don't know. We were drunk. The second one I did with my daughter. She brought it up, and I was like, yeah, and I'm glad I did it. It was great. Yeah. It was a great kind of ritual with her.
Yeah.
And I'm at the age where I don't care what's on my body. You can put Ryan Gosling on me. I don't give a shit.
We should play a tattoo roulette for charity or something.
Oh, okay.
This sounds awful. Anyway, so let's go on. I was going to say Ed was monumental or momentous for both of our careers.
Yes, it was. It was a very important time in our lives and changed us and sent us on a different course.
Yeah.
So yes, I'm great. And the other one is my daughter. So, you know, I'm good.
Cool. I've never gotten tattooed. I can't stay interested in anything long enough. I always, Mary says I'm a Gemini. I always lose interest. So I'm always afraid as soon as I get it, it's like, oh, I'm not into kung fu anymore, or whatever it is.
That's true. It's an interesting experience. It's addictive. You get one, then you're like, ooh.
Yeah. So. That's what, I see. Once you go, you ever get sleeved up, you got to get sleeved up.
Yeah, don't do it. No. I'd like to see you with a neck tattoo, though. Like a butterfly just across the Adam's apple. Or a hawk.
Like I do like a swing. How about a squirrel? You know what? I had a hummingbird hit the glass when I was working today. It scared the hell out of me.
Oh, Jesus.
And he kept coming in, and he would come through the screen.
Wow.
And then get stuck in there and couldn't get out. And by the time I got up to try to go help him, he'd get freaked out that I was coming up, and then he'd
get out.
Off. Yeah. Wow. Maybe a hummingbird. Maybe that's telling me to get a hummingbird on my...
Or just the American flag. Just straight across your neck.
Oh, no. That's always good. That's always good. Just wear a turtleneck if you go for a job interview. But before we get into Otzi, John, we need to look at some of these other famous natural mummies. Okay. And I'm not talking about the mummies like the man-made mummies in Egypt. I'm talking about all natural.
You're talking about mummified people,
right?
But who weren't like artificially mummified like the Egyptians did. People who just got caught in a situation where they're well preserved.
Right. Organic. No preservatives. Yeah, no preservatives. So the Ice Maiden Juanita was found in southern Peru in September 1995 by anthropologist Dr. Johann Reinhard and his assistant Miguel Zarate.
She just came up in the feed.
Did she really?
News feed. Yeah.
Interesting.
And I'll find out what it was.
Spooky.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah, it's Google just listening in on your conversation to see what you're saying.
I know, probably. You know what? Fine. If it helps my life, go for it, Google. I don't give a damn.
But in the textbook Archaeology, Colin Renfro and Paul Bond say that between the 15th and 16th centuries, the Inca built a number of ceremonial centers on the highest mountains in their empire. And Juanita was found on Mount Ampato, which is a volcano, and she was found at 20,708 feet. So
that is high, man.
I know.
How can humans go that high?
I guess they could if you're used to. I mean, there's some people that summit Mount Everest, right, without oxygen.
And how high is that?
I think it's 26,000.
So not that much higher.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
But when you get up there, it's so hard without oxygen to have energy to do anything.
Wow.
But Juanita was about 14 years old, and she had been ritually sacrificed with a blow to the head. And then she was tied up in a cloth bundle and buried with some little statues and food and pottery.
Ugh.
And so it was so cold and so dry up there, she was naturally mummified.
Wow.
And apparently Reinhard and Zarate, they were just summiting the mountain. And then when they got up there, the ridge had collapsed and it exposed Juanita in this Incan burial mound. And she had actually fallen down the mountain about 270 feet.
Man.
And it's like, if you read anything about, I've never been to Mount Everest, but there are bodies left up on Mount Everest because people can't get them down.
Bodies, oxygen tanks, and poop. That's all that's up there. People are like, why do you climb Everest? Because it's there. Well, let me tell you what's up there.
Yeah.
A lot of poop, dead people, and trash.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you see like the pictures of it, like everybody's trying to get to the summit. They all get summit fever, and there's hundreds of people up there.
Yeah.
And you only get a few seconds actually on the summit, get your photo,
And then you got to get back down before you run out of oxygen. And then you've got to take your time going back down at these base camps where you reacclimate. You can't just go down or they'll put you in an iron lung or something.
Yeah.
Or a decompression chamber or whatever.
But it strikes me, I guess because he's an anthropologist or archaeologist, that Reinhard and Zarate, they went down to look to see what that was.
They've got to be, I'm sorry. They've got to be a little off. I mean, seriously, to climb that high?
Yeah.
And then, he fell down and whatever it is. First of all, how did they even know it was anything?
It could have been a bag of trash, like a bag of
Let's get down in the ravine. The other one's like, wait, what? Yeah, that's a body. How do you know? Trust me.
It's a trash bag.
No, it's not. It could be anything. Well, we're gonna go down and find out.
Yeah. We're roped together. I'm going. And anyway, when they got down there and they picked it up, and sure enough, it was a mummy, and she's become kind of a famous mummy in Peru. And there was a show done on her last November, I think. And the show was called Capacocha, Following the Inca Divinities. And an article I read for CNN talked about, they interviewed Dr. Dagmara Socha, who curated the show. And Socha said that Capacocha was a ritual where children and young women were sacrificed to the gods to protect the people from disasters. And analysis had shown on the mummies that they think that the women and children probably chewed coca leaves and drank ayahuasca.
Oh, Jesus.
To get ready for the...
they got them hopped up on coke and then hit them with the ayahuasca.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
That's it. And then kill them. That's a rough experience.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. Did you ever do ayahuasca?
Never.
Yeah.
Would have.
Yeah.
What about you?
No, I never did it, but I have people like our age now are like, oh, you got to try ayahuasca. I've tried it.
Just do acid. I mean, don't go to all the rigmarole. Just drop a hit of acid.
Yeah, I don't think you throw up as much with acid.
No!
Ayahuasca, you have to throw up. Part of it, the ritual is throwing up.
Yeah, that's, I don't know. Just drop a hit of acid. Go microdose,
And then for the show, they recreated Juanita's face. So they hired a artist to come in and using like x-rays and everything, recreated her face.
It's always trippy when they do that. That always freaks me out.
Yeah. It's almost like a headshot. You know what I mean? It's like, and then they put it all over. It's big news. Like,
yeah. Maybe that's what came up on my news feed. Maybe that's it. Maybe it was, I don't know. I mean, I saw it. I saw a Peruvian mummy woman and I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it is. It's always big news whenever they do that reconstruction or that because I think it brings it to life. You know what I mean? People can,
speaking of the headshots, it just reminded me, I flashed on this. It was a horrible moment I had. I was driving on Santa Monica Boulevard and there were all these things floating around in the air, and hundreds of them.
Yeah.
And I stopped and I saw it was a headshot of an actress.
Oh.
And I was just like, oh my God, they probably just went, fuck it! And threw it out the window and just quit the business.
Oh, I love it. I love that. It's so dramatic. I mean, it's like,
fuck this.
Hey, speaking of Hollywood Boulevard, do you ever go down to the Wax Museum? That's like right in your neighborhood.
Yes, I've been by it many times. Never been in it. Never been.
Really?
In it. Well, it's in this area where there's a lot of people dressed up in costumes.
Yeah,
which is really sketchy. They're not. It's just these kind of semi-insane people who dress up as Spider-Man and stuff, and they're really aggressive. They'll come up and put their arm around you, and then you'll take a picture, and then they'll ask for money. That's kind of the scam.
Yeah,
and they're really intense, so I avoid them at all costs.
Yeah, I had that happen to me when I was living out there. I took my nieces and my mom down to Grauman's theater.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
And
that's
there
right
was
where
like
it
a
is.
really, really
They're
a Spider-Man.
skanky.
Yeah.
Oh, the Spider-Man's the worst. He's got like poop stains in his leotard. Like it's just, and he'll kind of half crawl up a lamppost and then
Yeah.
he'll act like he's Spider-Man. I'm of two minds. I'm
Yeah.
scared of them and I find them sort of distasteful and whatever.
Right.
But then
Right.
the other side of me is I love it. It's why I love LA. Because LA is just a shit show. And I
Yeah.
just love me a shit show. And I just love that. It's
Yeah.
just people don't understand. LA is an amazing city, but you have to embrace the total, complete chaos.
Yeah. And the spectrum of like being complete luxury down to like
it's got it all.
hanging on by your nails.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Exactly. Boulevard of Broken Dreams. It's just so amazing.
I remember like one of my nieces actually was like, I think she was like, Uncle John, I don't think he's wearing underwear. It was just awful. That's the way it was. It was.
Yep.
So John, let's keep moving on. Let's go to our next all natural mummy is the bog bodies of Europe.
Here we go.
And these are peat bogs, mummies that are found in peat bogs in Denmark, the Netherlands, Germany, England, and Ireland. And in her book, Miranda, Aldhouse-Green, the book's called Bog Bodies, Uncovered, Solving Europe's Ancient Mystery. She says that bogs were and are special places, miasmic and fearsome. They hover in the tween space between land and water. They are both and they are neither. So that's talk about, so that's talk about, so it's like a wetland, but they've always had this kind of, the bog had this ominous atmosphere to it, or this belief that went with it. And what's interesting about the bog bodies is that all of them, or almost all of them at least, they're always naked and they've always died violent deaths.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. That's weird.
Yeah. Yeah. And
what does that mean? Why?
Well, they think it's a ritual. Like some people think that was a ritual, a sacrifice to, I mean, we don't know.
So wait a minute. Let me get this straight. The only bodies that have been preserved are ritualized killings? That seems weird to me. What's going on?
I don't know. It seems like it though, does it? I mean, a lot of these natural mummies were ritualized killings. And with the bog bodies, you know, they think they were sacrificed to the Earth Mother. Like one of the theories that I read was they were sacrificed to the Earth Mother. But Aldhouse says that the vegetation in a bog doesn't decay, for example.
Okay.
And she notes that there's a particular bog moss called sphagnum, which has tanning properties. So, and it also acts as a preservative. And that's the reason why the bog bodies, they're always deep brown color.
Ooh, wow.
And their hair usually is red. Even though that's just the way of being like tanned, almost like tanning leather or something.
I see. Wow.
And the other thing that happens, Joshua Levine in an article called Europe's Famed Bog Bodies Are Starting to Reveal Their Secrets. He says that when sphagnum moss dies, it releases a carbohydrate polymer called sphagnum, and that binds nitrogen and halts growth of bacteria and further mummifies the corpse. The other thing that sphagnum does is it extracts calcium from the bodies, meaning their bones.
Weird.
So when the bog bodies are found, they look like squished rubber dolls.
Ooh, gross.
Yeah.
Oh, because all the bones are just sucked out of them.
Yeah. So they're perfectly preserved, but they look like a rubber ball almost that's been squished.
Oh, like you could roll them up.
Yeah. And some of the famous ones that have been found, the PBS show Nova on their website lists in 1897, there was the Ida girl, YDE, was discovered in the Netherlands. She lived between 100 BC and 50 CE. And she was around 16 years old, and she appears to have been strangled and stabbed before she died.
Jesus.
Yeah. And then in 1904, again in the Netherlands, they found the Weerdinga couple, which were two bog bodies. And for years, people thought they were a man and a woman. Then they realized that they were two men.
And
they don't know if the reason why they were both buried together, but one of them had a horrible chest wound.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And then the most famous one, probably from Denmark in 1950, they found the Tolen Man. And they think he lived around 400 to 300 BC. And the reason people love him is he has a very peaceful look on his face.
Oh, that's
almost
nice.
like he went to sleep. Yeah.
So maybe he was poisoned, we think, or what? No.
Well, he's naked except for a cap, but he also has a noose around his neck.
Oh, Jesus.
Yes.
Oh, God. Why did they leave his cap on?
I don't know.
All right, you can keep the cap.
I'm cold.
What? No, he's supposed to be naked. Let him keep the cap. Jesus, who cares? We're going to hang him.
He's cold. Just leave him alone.
Look at him. He loves that cap.
It'd be like us being like if somebody keep your socks on.
Yeah. And I would appreciate that. I like having my socks on.
Really?
Yeah, don't you? I mean, it's just so comfy to have socks on, I think.
Are you, when you get buried, do you want to be buried in a suit? Or are you naked? Like you're taking a nap or something?
I don't know, maybe a Spider-Man outfit like that guy. I don't know. I wouldn't mind having all the calcium sucked out of me and just rolled up. You know?
No, I was Levine in his article. He describes a Tolen Man as being tanned, a deep chestnut. His body appeared rubbery and deflated.
Wow!
And I was thinking to myself, tanned, rubbery, and deflated is if I had to choose 3 words to describe my experience in Hollywood. Tanned, rubbery, and deflated. I mean, I would get the Tolen Man if that's tattooed on my arm.
Yeah, you know? You're right.
And then in 1984, John, near Manchester, England, they found the Lindo Man, who we met, who's nicknamed Pete Marsh.
Yeah, Pete Marsh.
And they think he lived between 100 BC and 100 CE. He was in his 20s, and Nova says, quote, his death was far worse than a simple execution. He was struck on the head, had his throat cut, and was throttled with a rope made of animal sinew, perhaps to increase the bleeding, before being thrown face down into a watery bog.
Jesus Christ!
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's and him. I think they found. People go out and they cut peat out on the bog. So you're out there with it.
Why do they do that?
You can use it as if you dry it out, you can use it for fuel and burn it.
Okay.
And so there's no trees out there. Yeah.
I see.
And so I think what happened with him, people had been out there and they had already cut through his legs and stuff and burned his legs before they realized that there was a body out there. Somebody was like, hey, what is this thing? It's not burning too well. And so, John, now we get to Otzi, the man of the hour. Otzi, this is your life. Who's probably the most famous natural mummy. And in 1991, 2 hikers discovered his body in the Otzi Valley in the Alps, near the border of Austria and Italy. Okay. And it was so close, in fact, to the border that originally when they saw it, they thought it was a recent, or at least within the last few decades, body that had been discovered up there.
Really?
Yeah, because that summer of 1991, they had already found 5 other bodies from the last 60 years had come out of the glacier. So when they saw Otzi, they thought, oh, this is just another, maybe 50 years old or something. But then when they realized they went back and they measured where he was. And originally the rescue teams had come up from Austria. They realized he was 300 feet on the Italian side of the border. So the Austrians originally recovered his body, took it to Innsbruck, but then it became the property of the Italians. And then he was sent back.
And then forget about it. They never saw him again. The Italians.
They left him at the airport.
Who knows?
But anyway, but now he's in Bolzano, Italy. He has like his own special room, and he gets 300,000 visitors a year. He's like a celebrity.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And people can come in and you can see all the artifacts that were found with him, but also they have to keep him in a refrigerated room. And there's a glass that you can go up to and look at him just laying in there. So, and then in the book, The Man in the Ice, Conrad Spindler, who was like the first anthropologist to take a look at Otzi once he was recovered, he says that a German couple named Helmut and Erika Simon had been hiking in the Alps, and they were on their way back, and usually it says on the way back to the car park. And what they did is there was a stream that was overflowing in like a little gully, so they got off the beaten path, and it's out in the middle of nowhere. Okay, like when you see photos of it, it is remote. And they happened to look down, and when they looked down in the gully, they found the torso and a head sticking out of the water.
Jesus.
Yeah. And Helmut Simon told Spindler, quote, "From a distance of 8 or 10 meters, we suddenly saw something brown sticking out of the ice. Our first thought was that it was rubbish, perhaps a doll." Why there would be a doll up at like...
Yeah.
Because by now there is plenty of litter even in the high mountains. As we came closer, Erika said, "But it's a man." So that was...
Jesus, Erika.
Yeah.
She really picked it out.
I know. She knew it. And so, again, when they first found it, nobody thought he was 5,300 years old. You know, they thought it was all just a recent guy. So they were up there and they were they did a lot of damage to him because when the rescue team first went up, he was still frozen, like half frozen in the water. So they used a pneumatic drill to try to get him out. And they did some damage to his hip. And probably at that point, they were probably just like trying to wrench him out of there.
Give me that. Here, I got to hold on to this.
Grab my waist. Pull on my waist. I got his arm. You know.
Oh my God.
Another thing interesting is the famous mountain climber Reinhold Messner happened to be in that area at the time. And there's photos of Messner going up, like he's probably the most famous or one of the most famous mountaineers ever. And Messner went up there and got his picture taken. There's photos of Otzi hanging out with Messner.
Leave him there. Leave him there. I'm coming up.
And just coming back to Ben Folds, there's the band Ben Folds has an album called The Unauthorized Biography of Reinhold Messner. And apparently, just some trivia, I guess Reinhold Messner was the name that one of the band members of Ben Folds, their drummer, used to have put on his fake IDs when he was underage. And they didn't even know who Reinhold Messner was at the time, that there was a real person, until they came out with their album. And somebody was like, "Oh, that's cool that you did it under the famous mountaineer." And they're like, "What mountaineer?" But I guess Reinhold Messner was
coincidence.
Yeah, he was cool about it. But there's apparently in the liner notes of that album, there's like a thank you to Reinhold Messner for being so patient and understand. But anyway, Otzi within a few minutes, a day, is already hanging out with some of the most famous people.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Right out of the gate.
Yeah. Wow. And then Spindler says what was amazing about Otzi was that he was a fully equipped prehistoric man. Nothing like it had ever been seen by an archaeologist or indeed by anyone else in modern times. And just to give you some facts about Otzi real quick from the Angelica Fleckinger's book, Otzi the Iceman. She says, first off, he lived 3350 BC to 3100 BC. The journalist Carl Wendell was the first one to use the name Otzi, just because he was found in the Otzi Valley.
That's not very creative.
No, well, I guess the Italian South Tyrol provisional government later named him the Iceman, or the L'uomo venuto del ghiaccio.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, he was. He was. He was in ice. Okay.
Yeah. he was determined in his life to have been 1.6 meters tall, which is 5'3".
Oh.
He was approximately 110 pounds. And
shorter and less weight than Brad Pitt.
Yeah, me too. He's shorter than me. I'd shove that shrimp around if I ever saw him.
KOT. Where's your lunch money?
His shoe size was 7.5 for people who are keeping track.
Tough to get those 7.5 in men's. That's tough.
His eyeballs had dried out, and when he was first examined, they thought his genitals were missing.
Oh my God!
Yeah, but then once he warmed up or something, he
plopped out.
they were still there.
What did they do to this poor guy? My God!
I know.
Oh.
I was thinking that would be me. Like, if
I was thinking the same thing. I'm going to get caught and frozen in some bog, and people are going to pull out my genitals.
It's like, look, his genitals are missing. And they'd be like, no, wait,
they're there. Your finger up there. Feel this. Here, grab that and pull.
They're there. They're just small. Just small.
Look, his testicle. I found it.
They think he was in his late 40s, which was old for the time.
Okay.
He had a lot of tooth decay, and they think that's from eating stone ground corn with grit in it. And I would find that looking at skulls here in New Mexico, like even historic skulls, like the teeth are always really ground down from eating grit.
Yeah.
Also, his lungs were blackened and had soot in them from fires.
Just sitting around fires all the time.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then other things, they located a lot of his personal effects were right there with him. That's what was so amazing about it.
Yeah.
And he had a hide coat made out of goat skin. He had a belt and a pouch, kind of like a fanny pack he wore on the front.
What was in the pouch?
I think they found some things like he had like tools in there, like a retoucher is like a tool that you would use to like touch up some of your stone tools, for example.
Oh, okay.
He had in there. He had a brown bear fur cap.
Okay.
Which is pretty cool. Kind of looked
So he'd killed a bear, or somebody had.
Yeah. It kind of looks like that hat that John Phillips from the Mamas and the Papas.
Oh, God. That's tough to pull off. That's tough.
He also there was a grass mat, and everybody used to always think he had wore a grass cape, but now they think he would just carry it with him, maybe wear it over his head, because his shoulders were too small to be worn as a cape. And then the South Tyrol Museum, they actually had two twin brothers from the Netherlands named Audrey and Alphonse Kinnis do a reconstruction of Otzi.
Wow.
And the Kinnis brothers, they're pretty amazing. They have really long hair, and they're really good looking. And they're two brothers who specialize in doing statues of prehistoric people.
That's weird.
Yeah.
That's strange.
And
two good-looking twins who reconstruct prehistoric hominids?
Yeah.
How the hell do you fall into that?
I don't know. They're pretty amazing. Look them up, Kennis. You can go on their website and see all the hominins that they've done.
Jesus, what a weird vocation.
I know. If we're ever in the Netherlands, we should try to go see their website, or at least try to meet them.
Oh, we got to interview them. I have so many questions.
Yeah, and so they did one of Otzi, and at the time, Otzi, they thought he was descended from people who had come from the Russian steppes. So the Kinnis brothers, when they did Otzi, he had light skin and he was really hairy. And Audrey Kinnis said that, quote, "If we have to make a reconstruction, we always want it to be a fascinating one, not some dull white dummy that's just come out of the shower."
Okay. Yeah.
So
I look pretty good coming out of the shower. I mean, I guess that's their point.
Yeah.
Right.
So what they do is they usually don't try to depict a generalized early man, but they say they try to do a specific man or woman. And that allows onlookers to glimpse human prehistory with immediacy and even familiarity. And for some people, it's jarring. Like when you see one of the Kinnis brothers recreations, it's definitely, it's not what you expect. It's not just some static person standing there. It's like they show them with personality, you know.
Right.
And so Audrey Kinnis said that when we did research around the village where Otzi was found, many people thought he was young and handsome, a Johnny Weissmuller kind of guy. so he said when they saw their reconstruction, they were disappointed because he was like this 5'3" guy that kind of looks like Chris Christopherson. You know?
Chris Christopherson's a handsome guy.
I know, but it's like they were.
And he was a Rhodes Scholar.
I know.
You know that about Chris Christopherson?
I did. He was in the Army. I think he flew helicopters. He was a Rhodes Scholar. So
Jesus. He did everything, and he was in Star is Born, the good one.
Yeah. And he's written great songs. Sunday Morning Coming Down is a great song, I think.
Yeah.
So anyway, just some of the other things. It was amazing. Otzi had a really good copper hand axe that he carried, which they think was an important object. He also had a small knife and dagger. It looked like he had been trying to make a new bow because he had like just one bow that was in the middle of being constructed. And then he had a quiver of arrows with like 12 arrows in them, but only 2 of them were completed.
Oh.
And then they analyzed his last meal because his organs were still there. And it looks like he had eaten some wheat, some Eichhorn wheat. And also it looks like he had eaten some ibex, which is a goat, like a early mountain goat. And he also had eaten some red deer.
Wow.
For his last meal, and they could still tell from the contents of his stomach.
So he'd probably been carrying that with him and was just eating it as he moved along.
Yeah.
Man.
And then in 2001, everybody always thought that he had frozen to death up there. And then in 2001, an x-ray showed that he had an arrowhead in his left shoulder.
Damn.
So that's where everyone
shot him in the back.
Shot him in the back. That's why he had actually been killed up there.
Wow. So. Now, in the movie, we find out who killed him?
Spoiler alert. Yeah, we do. Like,
wow.
So.
Wow. But wait a minute. Couldn't that thing been just stuck in there for years? Maybe it was a previous thing.
Yeah. Well, when they looked at it again, they had some doctors and forensic anthropologists look at it, and they think it was bad enough that it would have severed like a nerve up there. And probably an artery.
Okay.
And but I mean, we don't know. I mean, it could have been just an accident, you know, maybe somebody playing around.
Hey, sorry, my bad. I was at in a bar once where somebody got hit in the back with a dart.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah,
I don't know why. Why are the most dangerous games in bars? Like, why would you have billiards and darts in a place where everybody's drunk?
Yeah.
I've never understood.
It's always like the dartboard's back by the pool tables.
Yeah.
You know? So it's like people not paying attention, leaning over, standing up, get hit with a dart.
Yeah. And then you get in a fight, it's darts and pool cues, and you ever get billiard balls? Jesus.
I've always been fascinated that when you play darts and it like sometimes they'll hit the dartboard and then bounce back out.
Yes.
And your natural reaction is to try to catch it.
Yeah. Yeah. You are a very good dart player, by the way.
I was maybe at one time.
You had your own darts.
I had if that's the benchmark, I did have my own darts.
You had your own darts and you had flights on them.
Yeah.
Some flights. You would have different flights.
My sister-in-law and my brother were both very good dart players.
Really? Which brother?
Yeah. Steve.
Oh,
Steve
really?
Yeah. And Jamie as well. Jamie as well was very good.
But David, no. David was not
foosball. He was into foosball.
Nobody played foosball like David.
The best foosball player I ever knew in my life.
You two were unstoppable.
He was the best, though. He was the best.
Wow.
But just real quick, John, some interesting new information about Otzi that came out last August. And that is that, you know, as DNA has gotten better,
Yeah.
they've been able to go back in and refine where Otzi was from. And they think that those initial DNA tests were contaminated by modern DNA. So now, even within 15 years, they've done it again, and they think he was actually from the area of Anatolia, which is now modern Turkey.
Oh, wow.
And they think that his skin was a lot darker than what people initially thought. And they think he had male pattern baldness.
What?
Yes.
Oh, man. No wonder he wore that hat. It's the ancient, backwards baseball cap that all the bald guys wear.
Yeah, the bear cap. The bear cap.
Wow.
But what's interesting, just going into his death, is people are always like, well, it wasn't for robbery. Like, why didn't people take his stuff, like his axe or like that bear cap?
Good detective work. Good detective work. You're right about that.
So he was obviously killed, like shot from behind, like you mentioned. They say that the person who shot him was lower and behind, but we'll never know why. You know what I mean?
What if he was, okay, here's my theory. He was working on his arrows. You said he had 12, but only 2 were finished.
Yeah.
He was thinking, but he was going to work on the bow first.
Right.
And he had an arrow sitting behind him, and he slipped, and it stabbed himself in the back. What do you think of that?
I do why not? Why not? We could put it out there. It could happen. It could happen. That would be my, just something embarrassing. And you catch me in that embarrassing position.
Too. Oh, God.
You find me mummified with like my pants down around my ankles out.
Masturbating. Something just horrible. Hey, look what I found. It's a frozen guy who was jacking off.
I fall in a bog and it's completely.
Here, his ID is perfectly preserved. John McCray.
Oh, that's
keep him. Don't move him. We're going to put him exactly as he is in a glass box in a museum.
We don't even need the Kinnis brothers to do a recreation. He's so well preserved. Just put the real thing out there.
Oh, God.
And
for the rest of your life, you're in a glass box.
So, John, real quick, Tom had mentioned the curse. They do, people have tried to say a lot of people that were involved in the initial recovery of Otzi have died. Obviously, we're all going to die.
Right.
So anyway, Conrad Spindler, who was the first anthropologist to look at him, died from complications of multiple sclerosis. That doesn't seem like a very effective way for a mummy to kill somebody. I don't know if that's
a curse. I mean, it is, but I can't blame it on Otzi.
Dr. Reiner Henn, who was the guy who put Otzi in a body bag, Henn died in a car crash on his way to a conference about Otzi. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I don't know. On their way to a conference, I've been to a few of those conferences. And there's drinking.
Everybody's got a little tipsy.
Let's see. The Kurt Fritz, who was the Alpine guide who scheduled the helicopter to retrieve Otzi's body, was killed in an avalanche.
Okay, I know. Of course, he's out there.
Yeah. And then Helmut Simon, the hiker who originally found Otzi, 13 years later, he died in a fall, a 300-foot fall.
Whoa!
And was buried in ice. But again, it's like 13 years later.
That's a slow fuse. What about his wife, Erica, or whatever?
She's fine. Yeah, she's
fine. Okay.
Yeah,
I don't buy that. Yeah.
And then some people tried to lump in. There was a guy who found Helmut Simon's body. So this is the guy who found the guy who found Otzi. They say that he also died of a heart attack after attending Simon's funeral, and I'm kind of like, if that's the case, who was Otzi not cursing? You know what I mean? If
everybody's he cursed the guy who cursed the guy. I don't know. I'm not buying it.
It's like 6 degrees of separation or something. Or like
Kevin Bacon is going to die at some point.
Otzi's getting revenge. You know what I mean? We're all on his list.
I've got diarrhea. Must be Otzi.
All right, John. So real quick, as we wrap up here, so you've heard all the evidence. Why do you think certain prehistoric remains capture our attention?
Well, I don't know. It's us. It's all we're self-obsessed. So it's about us and what became us, and we get to see us, the early us.
Yeah. I think too, I've been to Cambodia and went to the killing fields where like the Khmer Rouge buried all of their victims. And it's moving because there's still bodies and skeletons coming out of the ground.
Wow.
And it's almost overwhelming when you see a lot of skeletons together.
Yeah, yeah.
But there's something about when you see one individual skeleton or one individual mummy that it makes it even more personal. I think.
That's well said. Well said.
How is being a celebrity mummy like being a celebrity movie star?
Well, a lot of people see you. I mean, 300,000 a year come and see Otzi.
Yeah.
No private time.
Right. Right.
Ever.
He's always on. He's always on. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say the same thing, and you mentioned it already. It's all luck. It has nothing to do with if just somebody happens to find you and you're in the right place at the right time.
Yeah. People always think that the movie stars are the most talented people, but everybody here is talented.
Yeah.
There's a ton of talented people. Yeah.
And I think too, you got to keep working it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You got to keep the publicity going, or else people will forget about Otzi or anybody else.
Mm-hmm. Thank God those twins did that reenactment with face.
And finally, John, why do you think Brad Pitt has Otzi the Iceman?
I don't know. I mean, I think I kind of mentioned it earlier. I think maybe it's just a sign to him that, hey, this is all fleeting. This is all, we're just, it's all nothing. But here's the thing. He's handsome and rich.
What about the rest of us?
Yeah.
What do we get tattooed on?
We have a little of that nothing.
Yeah. I would think if he hadn't become an actor down in Springfield, like what would he have done? A Bass Pro Shop or working at Casey's convenience store?
That's right. A quick trip.
The other thing I was thinking is like maybe he played tattoo roulette.
Oh my God. But what an obscure one to, you know what I mean? That's crazy.
Yeah, with some archaeologist or something, maybe. Yes. And finally, John, just real quick, who would you rather? Otzi, the Tolan Man, or Brad Pitt?
Oh man, I would probably have sex with, let's see, Otzi the Tolan Man or Brad Pitt. I'm going to go with Otzi.
Really?
I don't know why. Just in that hat, that's kind of sexy. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No, I guess that's it. I'm just trying to think. Yeah, I mean the hat. I think the hat would be the thing for me. It's kind of a turn on. I like a hottie in a hat. Put a hat on somebody and I'm halfway there.
I think I'd have to go with the Tolan Man. Like he's so peaceful looking, kind of tan, he's
I don't know, but hard to kill. Jesus, they slit his wrist and
Yeah.
Or his throat and oh man.
Those rubbery hands on your reaching up to touch your face.
That's true. Roll up the ball.
All right, John. Well, I think we've come to the end.
We've really done it. We've taken it all the way home.
Yeah. We made up the extra time. We went long today just because we were out for 2 days. So we went a little long.
Please forgive us. This is human number 2 signing off.
And this is human number 1. Thank you to our listener, Tom C., for sending this in. Great topic. Mm-hmm. And if Tom, if you're thinking about getting Otzi on your forearm, we give you two thumbs up on that one.
2 thumbs up. And send us a picture. Send us a picture.
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening, everyone. We love you. John, love you. Thanks.
Love you, guys. Bye.
Bye.